Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Rahnama Academy Shahkot YouTube channel @ Rana4563. My dear viewers and all my students from cadet colleges, today lecture is human respiratory system, and we will discuss the breathing mechanism in human. Respiratory system basically consists of the starting from the nose, then there is pharynx, larynx, bronchi, lungs. This is how the various organs are involved in respiration. So starting from entrance of the air into nasal cavity, in the nasal, that is the nose. First air enters into nose, and nose contains mucus. What is the function of this mucus? Mucus basically traps the bacteria which are dangerous for us. So this mucus helps us in trapping those bacteria which are coming with this air. And the second thing, it traps the dust particle coming with the air. And another important function that is done by this mucus is maintaining the temperature of the air in accordance with the temperature of the body. Now, from nose, this air reaching from nose to nasal cavity, then it will reach to the pharynx. Then after passing through the glottis, it will reach to then pharynx to larynx. Then below is the air tube, that is the trachea. Trachea basically the air tube. It is located in front of the food tube in the chest cavity. This trachea consists of the incomplete C-shaped cartilaginous rings. What is the function of these incomplete C-shaped cartilaginous rings? They protect it from collapsing. In case of increased pressure of air, it protects this tube from collapsing. Now, my dear students, if you remember these steps in your mind, starting from nose, then through nasal cavity, pharynx, passing through glottis, then larynx, then trachea. Trachea is further divided into two smaller tubes. Those smaller tubes are named as bronchi. Singular is the bronchus, and these bronchi enter into our lungs. Remember, we have two lungs, one on the right side, other is the on left side. So right bronchus enter into right lung, and left bronchus enters into left lung. On entering of the lung, this bronchus is further divided into smaller tubes. Those smaller tubes are bronchioles, then alveoli, singular is the alveolus, and they enter into air sacs. Air sacs basically are the the same which I have named it as the alveolus, alveoli. These are basically the air sacs. The walls of the alveoli are rich with the capillaries. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about the function of the capillaries in the lungs. This is the place where exchange of gases takes place. This process of exchanging gases takes place in the through capillaries in the air sacs, and here inhaling and exhaling is completed. Now, how this inhaling and exhaling is completed? Basically, in case of inhaling, that is entering of oxygen into the lungs, this is what the inhaling, and expelling out the carbon dioxide from the body to outside, from the lungs to the outside, it is exhaling. How this mechanism takes place? My dear students, remember this step is very important. Normally we confuse in this step, and while attempting the MCQs relating to lungs and alveoli and their function, we often confuse here at this place. So don't be confused, just remember the steps, how this air enters. In case of entering the air, remember air moves from higher pressure to lower pressure. This is the only mechanism of decreasing the pressure inside the lungs in case of inhaling, and in case of exhaling, there is an increase of pressure on the air in the lungs. So how this step is completed? So first we take the inhaling. In inhaling, remember this our lungs are protected by the ribs in our chest cavity. So in case of inhaling, when this inhaling or entering of air takes place in the lungs, in that case ribs move forward and upward, and domed shaped diaphragm, it will contract and deflates downward. I'm repeating this step again. In case of inhaling, ribs will move forward and upward, and domed shaped diaphragm, it will contract and deflates downward. So what would happen as a result of this whole activity? The volume of the chest cavity will be increased, and pressure on the air in the lungs will be decreased. So definitely outside pressure is greater as compared to the air inside the lungs. So air will enter from outside to the lungs. Reason, air moves from higher pressure to lower pressure. This is how inhaling is completed. In case of exhaling, when this carbon dioxide is to be expelled from the lungs, in that case ribs will move inward and downward. In the first step, ribs move forward and upward. Now, ribs move inward and downward. And what would happen with the movement of the dome shaped diaphragm? Diaphragm will expand. In the first case, it contracts and deflates downward. Now, instead of contracting, it will expand and expand, and its movement will be upward. So, resultantly, pressure on the air in the lungs increases. So, definitely, with the increased pressure, this air is expelled out from the lungs. So, my dear students, this is how this whole mechanism is completed. So, human respiratory system and mechanism of breathing. So, do listen this lecture later on YouTube, and keep the important steps in your mind so that you may answer subjective question and objective questions from this portion very easily when you will be sitting there while attempting the science paper set by cadet colleges. Having well wishes for all of you. Thank you to all. Allah Hafiz.